Hello, today less versus fewer, and you will see that everybody wants to talk about this. Merriam-Webster, Oxford, Oxford through Lexico, the BBC, the Guardian, and the Observer style guide. Everyone has something to say. Now, the Guardian and the Observer are quite succinct, right? Fewer means smaller in number, so fewer coins. Less means smaller in quantity, less money. This is very straightforward, very easy. But then, of course, things happen, right? The BBC explains to us the same thing, and that's why they say we should say fewer meetings as opposed to less bureaucracy. You can count meetings, you cannot count bureaucracy. In the same way, you should go for less than 30% of the hospital because it is uncountable, but fewer than 30% of the patients, which we can count. And more details here, right? But they say towards the end, however, ages, heights, and weights take less. Tom Thumb was less than 3 feet tall. Police say the man is less than 30 years old, and she weighs less than 7 stone. Um, Okay, let's have a look at Merriam. Merriam, which is a very descriptive dictionary, has a descriptive view of language. I'm going to read from the last part. Less is more likely than fewer to modify plural nouns. So that's why we go less than 100 miles, an investment of less than $2,000 in 25 words or less. And the thing is that all of these are countable, right? And it is as likely fewer to modify periods of time in less than 4 hours rather than in fewer. Okay, more or less the same is what Oxford is going to tell us and what Lexico is going to tell us. Then you can explore the entries on your own, right? You have here this brief comment. People use less with countable nouns, right? So this is a problem that goes on and on and on. And well, there isn't much to be done about it, right? Because speakers just make that mistake, right? And there's another entry here that you may wish to read. But I would like to go to the entry from Fowler, right? And let's get started with few. And it's comparative fewer, right? At one point, Fowler says, by contrast, that is, as opposed to something he has said earlier, by contrast, less, which is the comparative of little, is properly used with uncountable or mass nouns, right? So less affection, less power, less misery. Neither less nor few should be used in conjunction with the word number. Now, this is something nobody mentions, only Fowler does this, and I think it is very useful. He says, the number of thinkers who have managed to say anything fundamental or new about translation is very few. No, because we started with a number, so the number is very small, right? By the way, this comment about translation maybe seems odd, right? Now, Fowler says, less can be idiomatically used with plural nouns in certain circumstances, right? So it is less than 70 miles to London. It costs less than £50. No less than 3 hours, and this is no less than by the great Philip Roth, right? And later on, an example by Margaret Drobel. And we have again the example further ahead of 50 words or less. Clearly, what all grammarians and linguists are going to say, yes, there's a rule. Less is uncountable, few is countable. But there is confusion, right? And there are some phrases that have been frozen wrongly, and they have stayed like that, and that's impossible to change, right? I love that at one point he speaks about the unprotected plural noun, right? So I shall care about less things rather than fewer things, right? Less men rather than fewer men, right? Less pedestrians, less immigrants rather than fewer. Now, in all of these cases, these final cases, when the noun follows the word directly. There isn't a preposition or anything mediating the relationship. It is really a clear mistake, right? He uses also some interesting phrases like, and he says that this may be ineradicable. I like that word, right? Ineradicable. Right, so impossible to eradicate, right? We can't get rid of that. And this, honestly, well, oof, slave trade. Well, it seemed ineradicable, right? I hope there isn't anything of the sort. Then he gives us some idioms. Many are called, but few are chosen, which is a very nice one. He had a few, which I know is for drinks. We have also this few and far between. Oops. Few and far. Few and far between, which is a very nice expression, right? Something is few and far between. What's this happened? Something. Oh, I hope I'm not running out of battery. Wait a minute. Few and far between, something that it's working. So let me give you one example here. I was in the right page, on the right page. Oh, Jesus. Sorry, guys. Well, not easily found. There it is, not happening often. I apologize. Okay, let's go to Les now from Fowler, right? And for Les, he's going to tell us more or less the same thing, right? That there's uncertainty about the use of less and fewer, right? And the many incorrect uses, like 1 million less school leavers, less jobs. This is fewer school leavers, fewer jobs, right? Then another example is less roads. No, sir. Fewer roads, right? But the expression not less than 15 minutes with this than in between, it seems to bring about confusion, right? And the interesting thing is that he has an example by Iris Murdoch, a very a writer he cites quite frequently, the police surgeon and no less than 3 outside doctors. And that's, he says, this is the most vulnerable area, right? People make that mistake. Possibly she was trying to imitate somebody's speech. I don't know. But what I want to, let me see if there was something else from Fowler that we needed to comment on. Yes. Well, he gives another example by Margaret Drabble, right? Yes, this is what I wanted to say. That Fowler tells us that we should bear in mind. He says it should be borne in mind. Be careful with this born, right? We should bear in mind. It should be borne in mind, right? That there's ample historical warrant for the use of less roads. That is to say that yes, this confusion comes from a long time ago, right? But there has been hostility to this structure from maybe for as long as it has existed, right? And then he speaks about the entanglements, right? Entanglement. Enredo o enriedo? Enredo, right? And these are difficult to disentangle, right? So anyway, remember that as usual, what I expect you to do is to know the rule, right? That fewer is countable and that less is uncountable, and have some examples at the ready to provide your answers. Okay, that will be all. Thank you very much. Bye bye.